My brother inherited our parents' house and told me to move out, even though I'd been taking care of them for years. When the lawyer handed us the envelope, Jason was the one who smiled. It wasn't a big smile, nothing flashy, just a small curve of the mouth, a tight little expression that said he already knew what was inside, that it had already been decided, that he'd already won. We were sitting in the same office where we'd signed Mom's hospice forms less than 6 months ago. Same beige carpet, same dusty blinds. The coffee table still had the same water ring on it from the last time we were here. Jason leaned forward in his suit, the same one he always wore to funerals and job interviews, and slid the envelope open with 2 fingers. The lawyer looked uncomfortable. I think he knew what was about to happen. Jason read the page, then looked at me, then folded it like a napkin and slipped it into his inside pocket. She left the house to me, he said. Calm, like a weather report. My ears rang for a second. I thought maybe I'd heard him wrong. You're kidding. He shook his head. Number. It's clear. It's all there. And it was. I read it myself, plain as day. The house, our family home, left entirely to Jason, not split, not held in trust, just his. I didn't say anything right away. I just sat there, feeling the air go thin. I'd lived in that house for 7 years, ever since Mom got sick, ever since Dad's memory started slipping. Jason had moved out when he was 24, got a job in a city 2 hours away, married someone with a LinkedIn bio longer than her vows. He came home for Christmas. Sometimes. I stayed. I drove Mom to her appointments. I managed Dad's meds. I dealt with the calls in the middle of the night when he forgot where the bathroom was and tried to open the oven door instead. I cleaned up when he couldn't get there in time. I listened when Mom cried in the dark about how she hated what was happening to her body. I wasn't just living there, I was holding it up. Jason showed up when Dad died, said all the right things, talked to the lawyer, took the lead like he always did, said we'd figure things out together. This was together. I didn't make a scene. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse him of manipulating our mother. I just walked out of the office, got in my car, and sat behind the wheel without turning the key for a long time. Later that night, Jason texted me. I know this is hard, but we'll sort it out. Maybe you could start looking for other places. Other places? Like this was a short-term rental. Like I hadn't spent the better part of a decade turning off lights, making meals, filling pillboxes. Like the house wasn't full of my life. I didn't reply. What was there to say? Instead, I walked through every room, touched everything I could. Chair backs, door frames, light switches. I opened the linen closet and looked at the towels Mom had folded, still in stacks. I stood in the hallway where Dad used to leave his shoes because he always forgot to take them all the way to his room. I was being erased, not loudly, not maliciously, just quietly, through paperwork and signatures and Jason's calm, clean decisions. The next day, I called the lawyer, asked if there was a mistake. He said no. He said Jason had handled most of the logistics before our parents died, and that everything had been signed months ago. I asked why no one told me. He paused. I assumed you knew, he said. That hit harder than I expected. Because of course Jason made sure I was the last to know. He always played the long game, even when we were kids. He was the one who borrowed money from me and forgot. The one who got the bigger room because he pitched it as more efficient. The one who let me take the fall when we broke the window playing baseball. I covered for him then. Like an idiot. Because I thought we were brothers. Now I was just collateral. That evening, I found a letter in the drawer by the sink. From Mom. Handwritten, short. Probably something she'd meant to leave for me but never got to finish. It said, "Thank you for everything. I don't say it enough, but I see what you do." That was it. Not enough to stop Jason, but enough to remind me that I wasn't invisible. I went into the attic, pulled down boxes I hadn't touched since Dad passed, started going through old files, bills, anything with my name on it. I didn't know what I was looking for exactly. Maybe proof that I'd been there, that I existed in the story Jason was rewriting. Because I knew one thing for sure, I wasn't just going to disappear. Not this time. If he wanted to erase me, he'd have to do it with more than a piece of paper. I stayed up that night staring at the ceiling, thinking about how easily people can reframe history when they're the ones holding the pen. Jason always had a way of making his version sound cleaner, more professional, more palatable. He'd never raise his voice. He didn't need to. He just moved through rooms like his presence was enough. But I was the one who sat with Dad through his last night. I was the one who coaxed him to take water when his throat was raw. I held his hand when he couldn't recognize his own. And when it was over, when the nurse pulled the sheet over his face, I stayed behind and made the bed. Jason called 10 hours later, asked how things went. Now he owned the house. Not because he earned it, not because he lived in it, but because he was smart enough to act before anyone questioned him. I wasn't angry in the way people expect. I wasn't shouting. I didn't break anything. I just felt tired. Bone-level tired, like the kind you get after a storm, when the cleanup begins and you realize no one's coming to help. I made a list that night, not of things to pack, but of things I knew. Things no legal document could rewrite. And I promised myself one thing. If Jason wanted to pretend I was never part of this house, he'd learn how loud the quiet one could be when he finally spoke. I didn't sleep much after I read that letter from Mom. Thank you for everything. I see what you do. That line looped in my head while the rest of the world moved on like nothing happened. Jason had taken everything but the care. And now he was acting like the chapter was closed and I was just one more logistical detail to be dealt with. He sent me a polite follow-up message. Something professional and friendly like, let me know if you need help coordinating the move-out timeline. The kind of message you send to someone subletting a room. Not the brother who wiped your mother's face when she couldn't hold a tissue anymore. I didn't reply. Instead, I made coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and pulled out every piece of documentation I'd saved over the years. Not because I thought I'd ever need it, I kept it out of habit. Receipts, prescriptions, bills in my name, printouts from Mom's medical portal. I had every emergency room invoice, every copay summary, every gas receipt from the pharmacy runs at 2 a.m. I had voice memos from Dad reminding me to pick up his pills, and photos of the pill organizer I'd prep every Sunday. I laid them out across the table, hundreds of pieces. My years of life compressed into printer paper and ink. I scanned it all, folder after folder, labeled by year. Then I backed it up to a USB drive. Then I printed a copy and put it in a binder. Not because I wanted to sue Jason or fight the will, I couldn't. I just wanted the story to exist. Somewhere. Because he wasn't going to bury me in silence. 2 days later, I drove to Jason's house. He looked surprised when he opened the door. Not nervous, just annoyed. Like I'd come to waste his time. I handed him the binder. He raised an eyebrow. What's this? Proof, I said. Of what? Presents. He didn't open it, just looked down at it like it was a piece of junk mail. What are you trying to do here? I'm not trying to do anything. I just don't want you pretending I didn't exist in that house. He gave a slow exhale the way he always did when he thought I was being emotional. Look, I get that this is hard, but the house wasn't about punishing you. It was about simplifying things. That line hit me harder than I expected. Simplifying things. My life. My care. The time I spent sponge bathing our father while Jason was too busy simplifying his tax strategy. Don't pretend this was neutral, I said. You knew what you were doing. Jason looked away. Dad trusted me to handle it. I told him you'd be okay. You told him I wouldn't make a scene. He didn't deny it. I left the binder on his kitchen counter and walked out. The next day, I emailed scanned copies of everything to every family member whose opinion Jason valued. Not out of revenge, but because I knew he'd already started spinning the story. He was always good at damage control. He probably told them I was grieving, overreacting, being difficult. It's harder to spin a story when the documents are attached. I didn't include a message, no intro, just, for your awareness. By sunset, I'd gotten 4 texts, one from Aunt May. I had no idea. I'm sorry. One from Uncle Charlie. Thank you for sending this. One from Jason. Was that really necessary? And one from his wife, paragraphs long, about how airing private family matters made everything worse. That I was creating drama during a hard time. That Jason was doing his best. I didn't respond to any of them, because I had done my part. I had shown the receipts. If Jason still wanted to play victim, he could do it in a vacuum. I wasn't going to be cast in his little play anymore. A few nights later, my cousin forwarded me a screenshot from Facebook. Jason had posted one of his classic vague status updates. Family can be tough, especially when people rewrite history to fit their bitterness. Dozens of likes. Comments from coworkers and college friends who didn't know the first thing about what really went down. Stay strong. You have a good heart. They'll come around. That was Jason's favorite position. Misunderstood hero. I didn't care enough to fight him for the spotlight. I'd spent years in the shadows. I wasn't trying to take the lead now. I just wanted him to stop pretending I didn't exist. A week passed, then two, then a text from his number. Can we talk? I let it sit. That morning I visited the cemetery. First time since the funeral. I sat by the headstone and just breathed. The stone was clean. Simple. 2 names, 2 dates. No inscriptions. Mom used to joke that when she died she didn't want any fluff, just the truth. I stood up, brushed some leaves off the base, and whispered, "Don't worry." I made sure they knew. Then I drove home. That afternoon the doorbell rang. Jason. Standing there like he'd rehearsed the whole conversation in his car and was already halfway through the speech. "I didn't know you'd kept all that," he said. "You never asked," I replied. He nodded like he expected that answer. "I want to talk," he said. "Really talk." I let him in. But this time I sat in my own chair. I didn't wait for him to take control of the room. Jason didn't know how to sit still. He stood in my living room like someone checking for exits, like the walls were going to close in on him. He'd always hated confrontation, unless he was controlling it. This time, he wasn't. "I didn't come here to fight," he said, scanning the room like there was something to fight with. I didn't offer him a drink. I didn't say it was fine. I just waited. He sat down finally, hands on his knees like he wasn't sure if this was a conversation or an interview. "I didn't mean to blindside you," he started. "You didn't blindside me," I said. "You erased me. There's a difference." That shut him up for a second. His jaw shifted like he was chewing on his own words. "You know I always appreciated what you did for them." "No, I don't," I said, "because you never said it. Not once. Not when I canceled vacations. Not when I sold my car to cover the hospice bill gap. Not when I missed Dad's last coherent sentence because I was making sure the oxygen tank wasn't leaking. So, no, I don't know." He looked down at his hands. He didn't argue. That was new. "I just figured you'd be fine," he said, quieter. "You always figure things out. I mean, look at you. You handled everything. You don't fall apart like other people." I laughed once, sharp. "You think that's strength? Not falling apart? That's called holding your breath for years so other people can sleep at night." He rubbed his temples. "Look," he said, "this isn't easy for me either." I thought I was helping. Mom and Dad didn't want to leave things messy. I told them I'd manage it. Keep it all simple. "Simple for you. Simple for everyone." "No," I said, "not everyone. Just the part of everyone that doesn't lose anything." He didn't have a comeback for that. "You want to know why I sent those documents to the family?" I asked. He didn't answer. "Because for years I kept it quiet. I let you have your image. The son who visits with flowers, the one who shows up in clean clothes and talks to the hospice nurse like he's in charge. And then leaves. Meanwhile, I'm washing sheets, arguing with billing, sleeping in the hallway because Dad's afraid to be alone." Jason's face dropped. Not performative, not defensive, just tired. "I didn't know," he said. "Right," I said. "Because you didn't ask." There was a long silence. It wasn't awkward, just heavy. "I don't want to be the villain here," he said eventually. "Then stop acting like the hero." He leaned back like that hit harder than he thought it would. "Okay," he said. "So what now?" "You tell the family the truth." "About what?" "That you pushed to have the will changed. That you told them I'd be fine when you didn't even ask. That you decided what I deserved based on what made your life easier." He hesitated. "You want me to tell them I screwed you?" "Number, I want you to admit that I existed." He looked at me for a long time, then nodded. "Once." Later that week, a message went out to the family group thread. From Jason. Not dramatic, just a simple paragraph owning what he'd done. That he hadn't considered the full picture. That I had sacrificed more than anyone knew. That he should have done better. It didn't fix anything. But it acknowledged something. A few aunts reached out again after that. said they respected how I handled it, that they were sorry for not noticing more, that maybe if mom and dad had written a letter instead of a line in a will, this could have gone differently. I didn't respond to everyone, just read them. Let them land. Jason stopped pushing me to leave the house. We didn't become friends after that. We didn't start calling each other once a week or repairing the bond. We weren't those people. He stayed distant, which I preferred. A month passed, then two. I started packing my things on my own time. Not because he told me to, because I was ready. I found an apartment across town, small, quiet, but mine. I brought only what mattered, left the rest. The house didn't feel like home anymore. It hadn't, since the day Mom stopped recognizing the hallway. Before I left, I walked through each room one last time. I didn't touch anything this time. I didn't need to. I wasn't haunting the past anymore. I'd spent years giving care, presence, time, and breath to that house. It gave me silence back, and that was okay.